Greetings fellow humans, my name is Alistair Lord and I am the Renaissance Yorkshireman. Today I'm making the first of 3 videos about fasting. So today's video will be a basic introduction. What is fasting? What are some of the processes in your body? Why you might want to do it? The second video will be about my personal experience of fasting, because I first fasted when I was 27 years old and I didn't really know what I was doing, so I made a lot of mistakes. But then in the last sort of 3 years or so, I've picked up fasting and I've done a lot of research on it, and I use it in a much more systematic basis. And finally, the third video I'm going to make is about some of the protocols that I use when I fast, that I've got from what I've read, videos that I've watched on YouTube of other people talking about fasting, and then experimenting with it myself and seeing what works for me and what doesn't. First, as with many of my videos, I'd like to talk a little bit about my sources, where I get my information from for fasting. So the first person I'd like to mention, and he has a lot of videos on YouTube, is Dr. Jason Fung. And he's a medical doctor and he knows his stuff. Now, I particularly recommend his video, Therapeutic Fasting, Solving the 2-Compartment Problem. And this video is just over half an hour, but it is packed full of information. So if you're interested in the subject of fasting, go and watch that video. And watch others of his videos as well, because like I say, he knows what he's talking about. The second YouTuber who I've got a lot of information from is a guy called Cole Robinson. Now, if you can't remember that name, don't worry. He's known as the snake juice guy, or the snake juice diet guy, or something along those lines. If you go to YouTube, put in snake juice or snake juice diet or snake diet, you'll come up with his videos. And if you see a big bald white bloke shouting, "Hey, fatty," then you know you found the right guy. Now, I don't watch his videos anymore because I've got enough information from his videos and I've experimented and I know what I'm doing. But if you're new to fasting, some of his videos can be very informative. And the third YouTuber who I've watched in the past, I don't watch her anymore, is a woman by the name of Shameen Miller. Now, recently she's had a religious experience and her latest videos are all talking about Christianity and her experience of having a religious awakening, but she still has her old videos about fasting on her YouTube channel, and some of them I found quite interesting and they're worth a look. So those are my recommendations for my sources. Of course, other videos on YouTube and other sources are always available. So I'm not recommending that you do or you do not fast. Make your own decision as an informed adult, but I am not legally responsible if you go and fast and then you have a problem. So make your own mind up. I'm not a medical professional. But just to put your mind at ease about fasting, because some people think that it's abnormal and are worried about it, I'd just like to quote from Dr. Jason Fung in the video that I mentioned earlier. And he says this: "If you don't eat, you're going to lose weight. And here's the thing to understand, there's nothing wrong with it. That's the way we're built, right? That's the way lions are built, that's the way tigers are built, that's the way bears are built. That's the way we're built. We're built to withstand these repeated episodes when there's no food, right? Because back in the cavemen days, there's no McDonald's, there's times when you have no food." Right, so if we imagine 20,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago, our human ancestors roaming, they kill a woolly mammoth. They've got a huge amount of food, so they feast for a number of days. Perhaps they might dry some of the meat and keep it. So they're going to put on weight after they've killed a woolly mammoth because there's so much food available and they don't know when there's going to be a large amount of food available again. Now maybe 2 weeks after this feast of a woolly mammoth, they've run out of food and they go a week with no food, they will be burning the fat that they put on when they ate the woolly mammoth. And this will have been quite normal for many of our ancestors in the far past, that they will have gone days with no food. When they have found food, they'll have feasted and then they'll have fasted. So they'll have alternated between periods of feasting and fasting. One of the problems with society today, particularly in the West, is that there is no shortage of food for most people. Now, often this food is really poor quality and highly processed, so it's full of fat and sugar. And so people put on weight, they get obese, they develop diabetes. But our ancestors 20, 30, 40,000 years ago, they pretty much didn't suffer from obesity or diabetes. These are modern illnesses, and it could be argued that one of the reasons for this, perhaps not the main reason, but one of the reasons is because people no longer have periods of fasting. Next, I want to talk a little bit about definitions. So, a diet, intermittent fasting, and fasting are all slightly different. Someone you may know may have said something to you along the lines of, "I'm doing a juice fast." Now, if anyone ever says to you that they are doing a juice fast, that is a factually incorrect statement. If you are drinking juice, you are doing a diet, not a fast. So with a diet, you're restricting yourself either with the calorific intake you have or to particular types of food. So vegan is a particular diet, you don't have any animal products. Vegetarian is a particular diet, you don't eat meat, but you can eat eggs and cheese and dairy. Ketogenic diet is a diet, you're not eating carbs, but you're eating high fat and protein. Or it could be that you're only sticking to one thing. So you're only eating carrots, or you're only eating avocados, or you're only having a particular kind of juice. That is a diet. You're eating every day, and you may or may not have a restricted eating window. With intermittent fasting, you're eating at least one meal a day, but you're restricting your eating window to 8 hours or less. So I'll give you an example. Let's imagine a person, he wakes up in the morning, he doesn't eat breakfast, he eats his first meal at 1 in the afternoon, and then eats a second meal at 7 o'clock in the evening, and that's it. They're the only 2 meals he eats in a day. So the difference between 1 in the afternoon and 7 in the evening is 6 hours. He's got a 6-hour eating window, so he is intermittent fasting for 18 hours a day. Now, of course, there's different lengths of windows. Some people like to do the 1 meal a day intermittent fasting, in which case they've only got a 1 hour or less eating window and they're intermittent fasting for 23 hours a day. And finally, a fast. A fast is where you're going at least a whole day with no food. So not 24 hours, it's likely to be more like 36 hours. Because if we imagine you eat a meal at 7 o'clock on a Sunday evening, you don't eat at all on Monday, and then you eat breakfast on Tuesday, that's going to be more or less 36 hours. So 1 full day or longer, that's a fast. If it's anywhere between about 16 hours and 23 hours, that's an intermittent fast. So they're slightly different, and you can combine them in different ways if you so choose. So why would anyone want to fast? Well, it's related to how your body uses energy. Normally, your body burns glucose. And if you're never going more than about 12 or 13 hours without eating, your body will always be burning glucose. So if you eat at 7 o'clock in the evening, and then you eat at 8 o'clock the next morning, that's 13 hours, you'll always be burning glucose. Now, once you get to about 13 hours without eating, so if this person eats at 7 in the evening, but decides at 8 in the morning they're not going to have breakfast, After about 13 hours, their body starts to change how it utilizes energy, and it starts to go into a process called ketosis. And you get into full ketosis about 16 hours after you've last eaten. So there's a process between about 13 hours and 16 hours where your body is swapping, it's stopping burning glucose and instead it's burning fat. So after 16 hours and longer, you are burning fat. So if your aim is to lose weight because you've got too much fat, if you consistently go more than 16 hours without eating, then you will burn fat and you will lose weight. Now, of course, you might heavily eat on those days where you're not fasting, and in which case you may well put it straight back on, but that's a different issue. So in addition to this process of ketosis, where your body's burning fat, after about 16 hours, or perhaps longer in some cases, it goes into a process called autophagy. And autophagy is basically your body's consuming some of the leftover rubbish in your own body. So bits of protein, precancerous cells, whatever. Now, some people make many claims about this, and there is evidence to support some of these claims. So this process of autophagy, it's anti-inflammatory and it's anti-aging. And these, as far as I'm aware, have a lot of evidence for them. Now, the claims that they can prevent cancer, I don't know how strong the evidence is, but some people do claim this. And also it's claimed, and I believe that there is some evidence for this, that it can help protect against dementia. So if you go for longer periods of without eating, your body will go into the process of ketosis. Later, it will start going into the process of autophagy as well, and it will be cleaning up your own body. There will be some kind of bodily renewal going on. Now, of course, as I said before, I'm not a medical expert. I don't know all of the ins and outs of this. This is a basic introduction. If you want to know more about ketosis and autophagy, you're gonna have to do the research yourself. And finally, I just want to say a little bit about the ancient Greeks. So 2,500 years ago, the Greeks, who much of what is Western civilization today is based on, a lot of the Greeks did fasting. It was recommended for good health, it was recommended for all sorts of illnesses, and it was also recommended for its cognitive benefits. And many of the Greeks wrote about how when they did extended fasts, their thought process got better. Now, other people, modern people who practice fasting, also sometimes talk about this. So apart from the health benefits of burning fat and burning some of the rubbish that's accumulated in your body, there is also the possible benefit of much clearer thinking. So the next video I'm going to make, which will be tomorrow, I'll talk about my own personal experience of fasting. And then the third video, which I'm going to make on Wednesday, will be about some of the protocols that I use when I'm fasting. Thank you for giving me your time today. Peace.